Sacco and Felix, New York and New Jersey's premier attorneys at law. Their team brings decades of experience across a wide range of practice areas. Whatever life brings, they're your legal team. From everyday matters to complex cases, they've got you covered with the experience you need and the results you want. Because when life gets complicated, they make it simple. SaccoFilas.com. SACCOFILLAS.com. 2 C's, 2 L's.
This is Tosh Plumnee, and you were with the CIA. Is that right?
Yes. I was military and then got recruited in from the 4th Army Reserve.
Now, there's a question right there, Tosh. How does it go from being in the military to being recruited into the CIA? How does that happen? What was that process?
Well, what happened in 52 when I was 14 years old, what I did, I sort of run away from home. I wasn't very good in school. So I ended up joining the 49th Armored Division, Texas National Guard.
Listen to this podcast now
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Why is the middle class shrinking? Why are people facing an affordability crisis while marginalized individuals called informals grow in numbers? Join me as I travel the world, speaking with people living in invisibility, the leaders working to solve it, and uncovering the hard truths shaping our economy and daily reality.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.
At 14, and then I used that to switch into the regular Army when I was 16, and then they found out about my age, and then I got into a special unit. They were at that time they were doing a similar recruiting for young kids like juvenile delinquents. And they were putting them in a special type unit, and it was an experimental type thing at Fort Bliss, and that's how I got associated with CIA.
So it is true. It's like in the TV shows and the movies that a kid who was a juvenile delinquent gets recruited into crime fighting.
Well, right. And that was based off, they did a movie, The Dirty Dozen or something like that. That was based on World War II when they were taking prisoners out of penitentiaries and then put them into a special unit training in Germany. They used that, started an experimental unit like that in the 50s here in the United States. And they would go into court, and kids that were in trouble, like myself, I was like a juvenile delinquent, wouldn't go to school, and so they felt that, a lot of kids were destined to be in a life of crime and end up in penitentiary, so it would be better for them to go into the Army. And so that's what happened in my case, as I had a choice to either go to juvenile jail, so to speak, or go into the Army. And so I chose the Army. Then as a result of that, then got recruited in to a special unit.
Now, tell me about the recruitment process. Did they come to you one day and say, hey, let's buy you lunch and we want to talk to you about a special unit? How does that work?
No. Well, how it worked in my case at Fort Bliss, I call it the grenade. We were on the grenade range, and we were throwing grenades at a little white post. And my drill instructor, he dropped a grenade in the bunker where me and another guy was, throwing our grenades. And so rather than throw the grenade down range, I picked it up and threw it back at him. It was a practice grenade. Of course, I didn't know that. So as a result, they ended up taking me to the CO, and he wanted to know why I attempted to frag my drill instructor. And so I told him, and of course the CIA was there, CID, not the CIA, but the CIA Criminal Investigation Detachment was there when I was talking to the CO, because I was, had allegedly was going to frag my drill instructor. And so I told him, I said, well, I wasn't going to give that SOB another chance to throw a grenade at me and my buddy. And so this one guy, he said, you got moxie. And so then I told him, I got mad at him because I thought he was accusing me of having like a VD or something like that. So as a result, that's what got me to that attachment. So shortly after that, then I was asked to go to a specialized training program out of Nags Head, North Carolina, and that was the beginning. So
Robert Tosh Plumnee. Robert Tosh Plumnee, thank you very much for being here tonight. You have an incredible story of going from being a juvenile delinquent to going to a special unit in the Army. And now, because you're in this special unit, you are asked to participate in one of the most historic, important, and terrifying events of any lifetime. You were asked to go to Dallas in November of 1963, and we need to know what it was you were told you were going there for and what you did. The stage is yours, sir. I want to hear this story.
Okay, well, everything goes back to JFK, and that was, in my opinion, the beginning of a coup. But how I got involved in that was a little bit on the strange side. In other words, I wasn't actually assigned to that mission. When I was at Fort Bliss, I ended up using the GI Bill. I ended up getting my pilot's license and got into pilot training. And then later got involved with what they call the Cuban Project. And I was flying arms and ammunition in and out of Cuba. Then when Kennedy's situation come along, a friend of mine was assigned to that unit, which was the Pentagon had received information that there was supposed to be a hit on the President of the United States. Well, he was assigned to that mission. Basically, they asked me, I was the flight crew. I was the pilot that was flying that crew into Dallas. In other words, that was my mission. I wasn't on the mission to go into.
You were the pilot for the guys who were on that mission, right?
On that mission, right, yeah. And they were dispatched out of the Pentagon with CIA logistical support. So that was their mission. So when I got to Redbird, my friend Sergio, who was a Cuban, he said, "You want to go see the president?" And I said, "Well, hell yeah." So instead of hanging out there at the safe place there at Redbird at the Oak Cliff Country Club, I decided to drive down to the plaza to see the president. So that was my extent. In other words, I wasn't on a mission to go in to stop the hit. I went with them, and then with Sergio, the position was to look for triangulation shooting. So I'm just tagging along. So that was, in other words, over the years, it's got sort of twisted around that I was assigned to go into Dallas and on that particular mission. Well, I was just a co-pilot. Actually, I was a co-pilot that flew from Miami to Tampa, and then to New Orleans, and then into Houston, and then into Dallas, and then I was just going to stay at Redbird Airport until the mission was completed or whatever they were doing, and then go back to Miami for debriefing. So, but in the process, that's how I got involved in the JFK thing. So I was there, witnessed the actual event, and saw what happened. And
what did you see? What did happen?
Well, I saw it happen. I mean, just a few feet away. In other words, we had other spotters on the other side, which would be referred to as the north side, and they had radios, but and the north side couldn't communicate with the south side because the radio crystals had been changed for some reason.
Oh, wait, so these radios, wait, this is good. Now, these radios were supposed to be able to communicate. People on both sides of where Kennedy's car was, they were supposed to be able to communicate, and suddenly they could not.
Well, the team that went in could not communicate with the south side of the plaza. The north side, there was one of the guys that was on our plane by the name of Gator. he was sitting next to the guy, the umbrella guy, and he kept making a sign on his throat like cutthroat. That meant I couldn't communicate.
Now, how
And
many CIA guys were at Dealey Plaza? How many people were stationed there?
I don't really know how many for sure. I mean, over the years, it's like Monday night quarterbacking.
Right.
But in our case, I'm looking at 5 in our team.
5.
And 5, and possibly maybe another 5 or 6 on the other side of the plaza. There's a story there. I mean, of course, you're on radio, we don't have time to get into all that. But there's a story there about that second team had captured a couple of the shooters. And that's another completely different story there.
How many shooters were there?
Well, we were looking for triangulation, which would have been a total of 3 or possibly 4 shooters.
Where were the shooters in Dealey
side,
Plaza?
Okay, on our side, there was one in the parking lot, one on the south side of the triple underpass, and that was on what we call the South Knoll shooters, and allegedly. And then on the north side, there was possibly 2 shooters over there. So we would have had what we were looking for was triangulation, which would have been in the rooftops, maybe one up on one of the Deltex buildings. The school book depository would have been from one of the floors, but it would have been on top of the building. So all those positions were secure. When we got there, Sergio's position was to secure the south parking lot. So we walked through the south parking lot and didn't see anything at all suspicious, and went over and was sitting in the shade of a tree by some steps, and that's when the shots were fired. So the limousine had come right across, directly across from where we were standing, and I saw the extra gate, and then all hell broke loose. So the shooting was, in my opinion, was from the front left south, on the south side, front left by the triple underpass, and that would have been in the south parking lot. That's my feeling. That's what I've testified to, is that a shot went over our left shoulder, and that's the shot that hit the president.
And it came from
so
where?
That would have been it came from the south parking lot, the south side of the triple underpass. So if you got a picture of the Dealey Plaza there overhead looking, you can see the south side of the triple underpass. There's a winged out section there as you go into the south parking lot. And we did forensics there at that spot with Sherry Fleischer, who was a forensic expert, and Jim Mars. And that's where we come up with the south shot that hit the president on the left side, left front, when he had his face turned. So, of course, that gets into, conspiracy theory, speculation, and all that. But as far as what I saw was that the shot was from the left front. So,
now,
I don't.
No, I got it. Now, you mentioned the man with the umbrella. Who was the guy with the umbrella?
Well, I don't know the guy with the umbrella. In other words, that didn't have anything to, in my opinion,
Right.
that didn't have anything to do at all with the assassination. The reason that Gator was sitting next to him is that the guy was close enough to be suspicious. And that's what Gator's position was to do, is to sit there and not take him out. In other words, people over the years have said, there's going to be a shootout. Plumnee said they were there to take him out and so like that. No, that meant just get close to him and break the timing. We're only looking at seconds. And to break the timing, stop the timing. And look for suspicious people. So that's what Gator had done. And he sat down next to this guy in case he was, some kind of a deal. All this stuff about raising the deal and signaling for a shooter, I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's all BS.
So there were
and of course,
right. So there were 3 CIA shooters. That's what you're telling us. 3. It was
Well, I don't know if
triangulated.
they were CIA shooters. The crew that we had was dispatched for CIA logistical support. Now that was our team that that was the team that I flew in with Dallas, and then I went there to observe. I don't know that they were CIA shooters.
Right.
I don't know. I think it was a government hit. For many reasons. But at that point in time, we're not thinking, in those years, the government couldn't do any wrong. Whatever the government said was the gospel. I mean, whatever was printed, it was truthful. It's not like it is now, But
Right.
To think that the government would take out Kennedy at that point in time would be ludicrous. That would be crazy thinking. But as time unfolded and decades unfolded and information, then the premise changed and the narrative changed and the speculation and the theories and the conspiracies. And, that's why even today what we're talking about, like I've said in the book, or not in the book, but I could write 1,500 pages and 3 pages about JFK, and the only interest would be the 3 pages.
Tosh, what do you think the reason would have been for the government to take him out? Any idea of what the reasoning was?
Well, okay. My consensus, and has been over the years, there's 2 things. It goes back to the national. Okay, Kennedy signed a directive. Now, let's see if I can get this down right. The consensus was that Kennedy was killed because he withdrew air cover from the Bay of Pigs. Okay, that's a cover story.
Uh-huh.
The reason that Kennedy was really killed, in my opinion, and the record sort of substantiates this, is because he signed a directive called the National Security NSAM 263 that he was going to remove troops from Vietnam, and he wasn't going to put any more men in Vietnam to be killed. And that's one of the things that he was going to do when he came back from Dallas. He signed that directive, okay, and then that directive was overrode by Directive 263 or 273 by LBJ 4 days after Kennedy was killed.
Right.
So the motive there, in my opinion, was over the Vietnam situation that Kennedy was not going to support Vietnam. After his death, we escalated the fight in Vietnam and put more troops in. So Kennedy was going to pull troops out. Elements within our government said, no, we're going to put troops in, and that led to the killing of a president. That's my take.
Tosh Plumnee, a person who was at Dealey Plaza the day the President of the United States was killed, giving us a unique and powerful perspective on how it was done, why it was done. So thank you for some time talking about your life, your interesting life, and about the death of our great president. Tosh Plumnee on the Red Apple Audio Networks.
This is Greg Kelly. Donate now to Toys for Tots, which works year-round. Go to toysfortots.org. Toys for Tots supports children in need throughout the year with programs like the Toys for Tots Literacy Program. Established in 2008, it has provided over 63 million books to disadvantaged children. The Toys for Tots Literacy Program is committed to providing disadvantaged children with direct access to books and educational resources that enhance their ability to read and communicate effectively. Go to toysfortots.org.